Hi everyone, I'm Tang Tang from Susan's family. Today I'm going to show you a design for the Butterfly Dream Fairyland Blanket, Alice Edition. For this electronic tutorial, you can search for susud.com on the website and check it out. The blanket consists of the main part, edging, and decorations. We'll start by making the main part. Once that's done, we'll move on to crocheting the edging. And finally, make and attach the decorations. I'll first explain the crochet method for the main fabric piece. Later, I'll go over various situations you might encounter during the crochet process. You can watch me demonstrate first, and then refer to the chart while crocheting. Let me first introduce the method for crocheting the main part. The diagonal method is used for the main body. You'll work back and forth in rows. It's divided into two sections, the increasing section and the decreasing section. By continuously joining new yarn and changing colors, you can crochet the corresponding pattern. The stitches used include chain stitch, double crochet, and slip stitch. Please watch my demonstration. For convenience in watching, I'll use thick yarn for this demonstration. The colors are random. For specific yarn, color schemes, and hook sizes, you can refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. First, make a beginning chain of 3. Then, work the first row. Chain 3 as a beginning chain. Start from the 4th chain stitch from the hook, pick up one strand on the top of the chains, and work 3 double crochets in sequence. Here, treat these 3 chain stitches and 3 double crochets as one pattern. The first row has only one pattern. Once the first row is completed, continue with the second row. Start by making 3 chain stitches. When working back and forth, you need to flip the fabric over. Turn it counterclockwise. Then pick up these 3 chains. To work one pattern, begin with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. At this point, the back of the chain will be facing you. Pick up the half loop at the highest position corresponding to the chain, that is, the line above the raised horizontal bar. Correspondingly make 3 double crochets. If you can't find the position accurately, you can also count from the front of the chain. After finishing, one pattern is completed. Insert into the first pattern below. At the starting point. In the large gap next to it, which is right here. Insert into the large gap and work a slip stitch. Continue with one more pattern here. 3 chains as beginning chain. Pick up the same hole, work 3 double crochets. There are 2 patterns in this row. The second row is now complete. Move on to the third row. Start with 3 chains. Then turn over. Pick up the position of these 3 chains. Crochet 1 pattern. Similarly, here the back of the chain faces you. Insert the hook into the half loop at the highest position and start crocheting. After completion, pick up the adjacent pattern. Start with the gap between the beginning chain and double crochet, that is, the hole next to the beginning chain. Work 1 slip stitch. Then pick up the same hole again, crochet 1 pattern. After finishing, continue by picking up the gap of the adjacent pattern. Make a slip stitch. Then work 1 pattern here. The third row is now complete. This row has 3 patterns in total. You can see that the texture of this row corresponds to the first row. This is the right side of the piece. The texture of the double crochets looks neater. When distinguishing the right and wrong sides from now on, you can refer to the texture. At the same time, the yarn tail for casting on should be located at the bottom right corner. Next, work the fourth row. The method is the same as before. Start by casting on. Then work 1 pattern. After completing it, slip stitch into the gap of the adjacent pattern. Continue with the second pattern. Work the corresponding patterns for the following positions. Use 1 slip stitch as a transition between patterns. Keep it going. Finish the last pattern. The fourth row is completed. There are 4 patterns in this row. Follow the chart as you move on. Continue crocheting the remaining increasing section. That concludes the explanation of the increasing section. Below, I will explain a few situations you might encounter while crocheting the piece. Next, I'll demonstrate using a sample swatch. I'll first explain the method for joining new yarn. There are 2 situations. Let me start with the first one. Joining new yarn at the start of a row. Please watch the demonstration. After completing the last stitch of the edge pattern in the previous row, enlarge the loop. We will pass the fabric piece through the yarn loop. Take the new yarn. Make a slip knot. Insert into the double crochet stitch on the edge. Draw the yarn through. Adjust the loop size. Chain 3 with the new yarn. Then turn the work. Start crocheting the pattern. That's it for the color change on the edge. Next, I'll explain the second situation, joining new yarn in one row. Watch me demonstrate. Place the working yarn on the wrong side of the entire piece. Take out the new yarn. Make a knot. Insert the hook into the gap. Pull the yarn through. Keep the joining yarn tail on the wrong side. Then crochet one pattern. While crocheting the pattern, you can wrap the yarn tail for joining, and crochet. That's it for adding new yarn within a row. Next, I'll demonstrate the color changes for adjacent patterns, which require leaving yarn tails. There are 2 scenarios. Let me explain the first one. Around this color block. Either above or on the left side. Where you need to use the same color yarn, watch me demonstrate. After completing this color block, don't cut the yarn. When crocheting the next row, use this same yarn. Simply pull the yarn across and crochet the pattern. Place the working yarn on the wrong side of the fabric. Gently tighten the previous yarn. Make sure the carried yarn is not too tight. This pulled yarn. While crocheting the pattern, weave it in. That concludes the first scenario. Next, let's talk about the second one. The yarn color around this color block won't be used, but one pattern apart on the lower left. Or the upper left will use the same color yarn. In this case, you can just pull the yarn across and crochet. That concludes the second scenario. That's it for the method of changing colors and leaving yarn tails in adjacent patterns. Next, I'll explain the situation where we don't leave yarn tails for adjacent patterns when changing colors. If the color of this color block is not used around it, but will be used again 2 patterns apart on the lower left or further away, we can leave a 15 centimeters tail. Then cut the yarn. When crocheting the pattern, just join the yarn again. Now, I'll demonstrate how to hide the yarn tail after breaking the yarn. Color change section. First, take the yarn tail. And hook it out from the braid above. Then slightly tighten. This is equivalent to making a knot. The remaining yarn tail is hidden on the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure to weave in a few more stitches. If you want it to be more secure, you can divide the yarn tail into 2 parts. Hook one part out from an adjacent position. Then tie the 2 yarn tails into a double knot. Weave in the remaining yarn tails together on the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure to weave in a few more stitches. For the rest of the yarn tails, except for the cast-on tail, weave them into the fabric separately. For the joining yarn tails, continue weaving in a few more stitches inside the fabric. That's all for how to change colors in adjacent patterns without leaving yarn tails. Next, I'll explain what to do when the same color block is far apart in one row. This refers to situations where there are 2 or more patterns in between. To make crocheting easier, you can rejoin the yarn in one of the sections. A ball of yarn will have 2 ends. One at the surface and one at the center. When you encounter a color that only has one ball, use the other end of the yarn to join. For colors with multiple balls, you can use another ball to rejoin the yarn. First, place the previous color's yarn tail on the wrong side of the fabric. Then pick up the corresponding yarn. Join the yarn. That concludes the method for handling distant same color blocks in one row. Next, we will work on the decreasing section. Both diagonal ends need to reduce patterns. Start by making 3 beginning chains. Turn over. Work a slip stitch in the pattern below. Then crochet 1 pattern. Continue to work the corresponding patterns. Keep crocheting until you reach the inner side of the last pattern. After finishing the inner side of the last pattern, do not continue crocheting. Perform a slip stitch instead. This way, both the beginning and end are missing 1 pattern. That concludes this row. Move on to the next row, using the same method. Start with 3 chain stitches as the beginning chain. Turn over and slip stitch at the pattern below. Then crochet 1 pattern. Continue crocheting the patterns, working into each stitch in sequence. After finishing the inner side of the last pattern, that completes this row. For the following rows, simply follow the method used for the first 2 rows. Keep crocheting. Continue all the way down until you finish the last row. When completed, there will only be 1 pattern in the final row. After finishing, slip stitch into the adjacent pattern to complete. Finally, crochet 3 chains. Turn. Slip stitch into the pattern below. After completing, you need to fasten off the yarn. First, make 1 chain to secure, leaving a little yarn tail. Cut the yarn. Pull tight. Weave in the yarn tail to the wrong side of the fabric. You can weave in a few more stitches if you like. That concludes the explanation of the decreasing section. This completes the explanation of the crochet method for the fabric piece. Next, we will add edging to the blanket. It involves crocheting in rounds around the completed main part. The new stitch technique used here is SC 2-in-1. Please watch the demonstration. Take out the crocheted fabric piece. Find the pattern on the top edge of the side with the yarn tail for starting chain. Pick up the entire chain of this pattern and start joining the yarn. Make 1 beginning chain. Crochet 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Then on the left side cluster. Crochet 3 single crochets into these 3 stitches. Wrap around the entire chain stitch work. Following this demonstration, approximately every 2 patterns, crochet 5 single crochets. Finish this edge. Lastly, pick up the chain and crochet 2 single crochets. This completes this edge. After completing, crochet 1 single crochet in the corner position. There's no specific requirement for the insertion point. You can choose based on your preference. Crochet 1 single crochet for each of the following corners. For the sides, follow the previous side demonstration. Crochet 5 single crochets for every 2 patterns. When you encounter a double crochet, pick up the entire double crochet and work it. When you encounter the other 2 strands of the chain stitch, pick up these remaining 2 strands and crochet them. Everyone, follow the pattern chart to complete this round. Join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Slightly tighten it. That completes the first round of edging. Cut the yarn. Next, we'll work on the second round. Take the new yarn. Attach the yarn at the second to last stitch of the first round. Crochet the edging. Make 3 chains as the beginning chain. These 3 chains count as 1 double crochet. Continue to work 3 double crochets into the next stitch on the left. Crochet them in the same position. This completes the corner. For any other corners that follow, crochet according to this demonstration. For the edges, work 1 double crochet for each stitch. Everyone can complete this round following the chart. Finally, pick up the top 2 strands of the third chain from the beginning chain. Make 1 slip stitch. That completes the second round. For the following rounds, just follow the chart all the way to the end. Pay attention, in the last round you will encounter a new stitch technique, SC2-in-1. The method for SC2-in-1 is to work 2 single crochets in the same stitch. That concludes the explanation of the SC2-in-1. This completes the demonstration of the edging. Next, we'll learn about decorations. They are divided into stars, hearts, letters, the facial features and sewing lining. Let's start with the stars. Use the magic ring method to begin. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Please watch the demonstration. Take the corresponding yarn. Begin with a magic ring. The starting ring is complete. Move on to the first round. Make 3 chains as the beginning chain. This counts as 1 double crochet, then work 11 double crochets into the magic ring. After completing, pull tight the yarn tail of the magic ring, tighten the center of the piece. Join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pick up the top 2 loops of the third chain and continue crocheting. This completes the first round. Now let's move on to the second round. Make 1 beginning chain. Then make 1 slip stitch in the same place of the slip stitch. Be mindful not to pull too tight. Chain 6. Then, starting from the second to last stitch, work 1 single crochet. Work 2 half double crochets. Work 2 double crochets. After completing below, skip 2 double crochets. Work 1 slip stitch in the third stitch. We consider the stitches from the first slip stitch past to the end of the double crochet as 1 corner. You will need to make 3 more corners like this one. Work 1 slip stitch between each corner. Be careful not to tighten too much. Everyone should follow the chart to complete this round. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Leave a long tail for sewing. This completes 1 star. Follow this method and refer to the chart to complete the remaining stars. That concludes the crocheting technique for the stars. Next, we will sew them together. Thread the reserved yarn into a sewing needle. Refer to the sample picture and sew at the corresponding positions. I'm placing them randomly here. The right side or wrong side of the star can face up. Decide based on your preference. Here, I have the right side facing up. The blanket's right side is also facing up. The sewing needle will pick up a few threads from the surface of the blanket to sew. Mind that the stitches don't show on the wrong side of the blanket. Then pick 1-2 threads from the edge of the star's wrong side and sew. Follow this method and sew around the entire circle. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends neatly. That's how you sew one star. Sew the rest of the stars in the same way. Next, let's learn how to make a heart. It is divided into part 1 and part 2. Start part 1 with the magic ring technique. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. After completing part 1, move on to crochet part 2. The new stitches used include treble crochet and half double crochet. Please watch the demonstration. Start with a magic ring. Then work 2 chains as the beginning chain. Next, crochet 1 double crochet into the loop. One treble crochet. The method for treble crochet is to yarn over twice. Insert the hook into the loop, yarn over and draw through. Yarn over again, and then pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Repeat this process 3 times. This completes the treble crochet. Continue with 2 more treble crochets. After completing them, follow with 1 double crochet, 1 half double crochet, 1 single crochet, and 1 chain stitch. Then pick up the front loop of the single crochet below and the left side strand, and work 1 slip stitch. Continue to refer to the chart and work 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 treble crochets. One double crochet, 2 chain stitches. Finally, work 1 slip stitch in the ring. Leave a yarn tail for sewing. Tighten the magic ring. That concludes the first part of the heart. For the second part, start with 3 chain stitches. Start from the second stitch from your hook. Work 1 single crochet. Then, make 1 chain stitch. Pick up the front loop of the single crochet below and the left thread. Work 1 slip stitch. Next, work 1 single crochet and 1 chain stitch on the last chain stitch. After completing, pick the insertion position of the single crochet, work 1 slip stitch. Break the yarn at the end and sew together. This completes the second part. The sewing method is identical to the one used before. Make sure the right side of the heart is facing up. That concludes the explanation of how to make the heart. Next, let's learn the letters. There are several types of letters. All the stitch techniques have been demonstrated before. Just follow the pattern chart for crocheting. After completion, it's time to assemble. It involves taking the 3 completed fabric pieces. Place the shorter fabric piece underneath the left side's half double crochet piece, holding it down. Position it horizontally. These 2 long pieces will form this shape. Then sew them together. The sewing technique has been demonstrated before. Simply sew it together. For the remaining letters, arrange them according to the finished product diagram. Pay attention to the letters C, E, and S. These 3 letters have indented shapes. Make sure to sew them properly. That concludes the method for making the letters. Next, we will learn about facial features. Starting with the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears and faces. The crochet techniques and sewing methods have been demonstrated before. Follow the chart to crochet. After completing, sew them together. Note that the faces should be wrong side facing up, while the others should be right side facing up. That concludes the method for making the facial features. Next, we will sew the lining. Sew on the wrong side. I will first explain some precautions. Then I will provide a sewing technique. First, the lining fabric. Roughly secure it slightly below the second round of the edging. Then proceed to fix it in place. Before securing, you need to wash and iron the lining fabric from the kit. This removes any excess dye and pre-shrinks the fabric. Also, on the back side of the blanket, iron the blanket to set its shape. Then sew it together. Let me demonstrate first, and then we'll sew it together. I'll demonstrate the securing method using this small sample. Lay the blanket with its backside facing up. Place the lining fabric over the blanket. The lining fabric should completely cover the blanket. In reality, the blanket is larger, for convenience when sewing. You can use pins to secure the lining fabric to the blanket first. If you don't have pins, you can use safety pins as a substitute. Alternatively, you can also use thread to temporarily secure it. In practice, make sure to choose more spots for securing. This prevents unevenness when sewing. Secure the 4 corners first. Then secure the 4 sides. Finally, secure the center position. After securing, trim the lining first. There are no specific requirements for the cutting position. Just ensure that the edges of the lining fabric are at least 3 centimeters longer than the sewing position. Now the blanket and lining are secured. Next, I'll demonstrate the sewing method using this sample. First, fold the corresponding lining horizontally along the edge towards the inside. Here, I'm folding along the edge of the crocheted border. The exact position depends on personal preference. Make sure the lining edges align roughly with the first round of the crochet border. Then proceed with the sewing. Here, I've cut a 1 meter length of yarn. And I'm taking one strand from it. Thread the sewing needle. For the exact sewing yarn, please refer to the chart. Fold the yarn in half. Tie a knot at the end. Start sewing from any side. Insert the sewing needle slightly to the right of a corner position. Secure it close to the sewing edge. Insert the sewing needle into the sewing position. Pull out part of the yarn tail. Insert the sewing needle into the yarn loop that was reserved. Pull tight and secure the yarn tail well. Here we use the whip stitch method. Insert the sewing needle into the fabric piece. Pick up a few strands from the wrong side of the first round of the edging. Sew it once at the edge position of the lining fabric. Mindful not to let the thread show on the right side of the fabric. Slightly tighten. Leave a bit of space. Insert the sewing needle into a few strands from the wrong side of the first round of the fabric piece. Sew again at the corresponding position of the lining edge. Stitch once more. Slightly tighten. Repeat this process. Continue sewing to finish the rest of this side. Adjust the position while sewing. To prevent sewing crooked. Before reaching the corner position, fold the edge of the lining for the next side inward as well. Continue sewing. Adjust the position while sewing. Pay attention not to sew crooked. The sewing needle entry distance at the corner can be a little closer. Sew it so that it fits more smoothly. After sewing the corner, follow this method. Continue sewing. If you encounter a situation where the yarn tail is not long enough, first tie off the yarn tail on the wrong side and secure it. Then pick up the new yarn and continue sewing. Continue to sew the entire round. After completing it, you can secure along the edge of the sewing position and weave in the ends. This is the method for sewing the lining fabric. To make the blanket flatter, you can iron it again on the back side of the blanket to set its shape. Up to this point, the explanation for this product is complete. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.